And third, Firewire. Today, we are officially rolling out Firewire as part of our product line on the motherboard of every new Power Mac G3. Now, what is Firewire? What is Firewire? Think of Firewire as USB, but rather than running at 12 megabits per second, it's running at 400 megabits per second. And it's already an established industry standard. Now, where does all this come from? Well, we have to go back. We have to go back a dozen years to when Apple rolled out SCSI. It was a brilliant decision at that time to use one interface to connect to both internal disk drives and bring a connector out the back to connect to disk drives externally and other peripherals like scanners and other things. It was great. The problem was history has passed it by. Because SCSI is now, the SCSI that Apple builds in for the external port is way too slow to serve internal disk drives. For internal disk drives in the new Power Mac G3s, we've built in the latest and greatest Ultra ATA. It's super fast to talk to disk drives. And at the high end, we offer an Ultra 2 SCSI card to talk to the highest end drives that our high-end publishing customers want. But none of that has anything to do with the SCSI that comes out the back of the product anymore. The technology has passed it by. So let's compare the two. Again, Firewire, rather than 80 megabits per second, it's 400 megabits per second. It's 5 times faster. Instead of 7 devices, you can hook up 63 devices. And unlike SCSI, any number of them can be computers, as we'll see in a minute. It's hot pluggable. You don't have to turn your computer off to connect and disconnect peripherals. You can just plug them right in. Again, the drivers are dynamically loaded. There are no terminators. And there are no switches. It just works. Now, if you really love these big cables, and if you really love that thing over there, which is a terminator, if you don't get that on, you'll get data corruption or it won't work at all. And if you really love switches, we will be glad to sell you a SCSI card for your new Power Mac G3. But if you don't want to futz with all that stuff, there's Firewire, built into every new system. Now, you can connect Firewire to a zillion things. First of all, there's the digital camcorders, of which there are now 4 million of in the world. All those digital camcorders have Firewire jacks on them. You can take that Firewire jack and plug it right into the back of your G3 and bring in digital video with pristine digital quality with no add-in boards, no extra expense. We think this is going to be a really big deal. So I'd like to just show you a few things about Firewire now, if that's okay. I've got a few Firewire devices over here. Here's a Nikon Pro camera. Right? This is what professionals use to get very high resolution imagery. Firewire jack right on the side. Here's another one. Canon's equivalent of that. Firewire jack right on the side. Here's a box that Sony makes and sells for $300. Firewire in, analog, audio, and video in and out. So if you want analog video in and out, buy one of these and hook it right up to Firewire. Works perfectly. Now let me show you some video. I've got a camera right here, and I've got 2 G3 computers up there, and I got a Firewire cable right here. And my Firewire cable is very simple. I can just plug these 2 things together, and it'll hook that camera into that G3. It takes about 3 seconds for the network to reconfigure itself, load all the drivers and everything. And so let me go ahead and just plug this in right now. Boom. And in a few seconds, I should see video up there. There I am. Hello, Mom. OK. And I can unplug it, and it'll stop. And I can plug it back in. And in a few seconds, it should start again. Well, it should. There we go. Good. Now, Firewire is not just a point-to-point connection. It's a bus. And it's a really intelligent bus. So I've got another cable here. See, there's 2 Firewire jacks on the back of every Power Mac G3. So one of them, for this G3, is going to the camera right now. The other one, I connected to another cable, which is connected to the Firewire port of a second G3. Because unlike SCSI, you can have any number of computers on your Firewire bus. And so when I plug this in, it'll take that same video signal and just send it to both G3s. Let's see if it works. Should take about a few seconds to reconfigure the net, and there we go. Voila. Right? I can unplug it here. I can unplug it, and I'm back up on the 1. I can plug it in, and there we go. So, Firewire, 400 megabits per second, digital video, multiple CPUs, plug and play, hot pluggable. Let me show you one other thing here. This is really cool. One of the things that people use SCSI for the most is sort of sneaker disk, if you will. They take outboard SCSI disk drives, hook them up to their computers, load giant files on them, take them across the office or across the city or across the country, plug them into another computer, and that's how they transfer very large files. I'm sure some of you do that. And these outboard SCSI drives have their little wall transformers and power supplies, and it's kind of a mess. Well, let me show you something really cool. This thing right here. This little thing is a 6 gigabyte drive, right? And it's got a Firewire port on it. Isn't that cool? It's by a company called VST. It's going to ship in March. Now, one other thing about Firewire I haven't mentioned. There's power on it from the computer. And so I can take a Firewire cable right here and plug it right into this disk drive without any external power supply on this thing other than what it's drawing from Firewire. And it'll automatically configure itself. And if everything works, it'll spin up. Yep, starting to spin up right now. And it should show us on the desktop. There it is right there. Okay? Now again, here's a QuickTime file, right? It's a cool little QuickTime movie coming right off this disk.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. 10 aside until I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me. Saying, get back together, come back and see me. 3 days is a lit.
Now, this is what this thing looks like in March. This is shipping in June. It's a 1/2 inch thick, right? 1/2 inch thick. Fits in my pocket, 6 gig drive, Firewire ports out the back. So, Firewire is just going to explode. And it's going to be the high-end serial interconnection standard throughout the industry, and it's hot. Built in to every Power Mac G3.